We just want to thank God as we are winding up the month of September with conversations with Rev Allan. It has been a wonderful session of knowing a pastor's story, a pastor's journey, challenges. And today we just want to have a few insights on some of the good practices, principles that a pastoral team can apply so that they can have a healthy, a continuous journey, because one of the people that are mostly attacked are pastors. One of the people that are mostly the bar is high are pastors. So I have these wonderful men of God here that will introduce themselves today for a change so that people can hear your voices. I'll just give this opportunity to you, Venerable, and then the host of the show to begin the show as he introduces himself. Karibuni.
Asante. Okay, asante sana. It's wonderful to be here again almost every Wednesday. Every time that we come here and to discuss matters that pertain the humanity and especially the service that God has given to us. And I'm Nicholas Rotich in my church, Anglican Church of Kenya. I'm an deacon, and so doing some of the pastoral and administrative work in the parish and also in the archdeaconry. And so happy to be here and to continue.
Welcome, Archdeacon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I am also glad for this show. We've run it now for a while, and God has been faithful. We are discussing this season about pastor as we are winding up. I am Rev Allan. I thank God. Welcome.
Thank you. So maybe to begin with Archdeacon and Rev Allan, on matters mental health, what are some of the things that pastors can do so that, pastors go through depression, stress, they have mental breakdown. So some of the things a pastor or pastors can do to maintain their mental health status, which reflects in the physical, the emotional, day-to-day life. Venerable.
Okay. Yes, as regards mental health of a pastor. And what we need to know, is, especially to talk about, is these pastors are human beings. And as human beings is that they go through challenges, and also the way they respond to those challenges actually take different dimensions. Others actually can be so low and can progress to depression. And for me is that how a pastor handles particular mental challenges so that they are mentally healthy and spiritually healthy and as emotionally as well as socially healthy, is that one is to also talk. Yeah, and when we sharing, and of course being cautious on who to share with, and the challenges that we go through, and one actually kind of stop shop of sharing is by prayer, and sharing it with God. That is a place where you can get some solace when you share with God, when you talk with God in prayer. So praying about the challenge, that is one. And of course, we need to have systems within, mechanisms within our churches, our congregations, where we can actually share our experiences and how we are psychologically upset or we are emotionally upset. So that when we create a culture within our congregations, within our groups, in the self groups, prayer partners and friends, that is a time when we can actually share some of those mental health issues, and as well we can be helped. Some of the groups can be having professionals where we can be seeking help from, where we can be counseled. Even a pastor, much as they counsel, they need also counseling. So that is what I may want to say as regards mental health.
Yes, Reverend Allan.
Thank you. There's a story in the Bible about Elijah. Elijah was very tired and weary, and he decided to die because of burnout, and he had exhausted himself. And the Lord told him that God has still many prophets that are untouched and undefiled, so they can do what he's doing. And one of the things that I have come to discover as I keep on growing in ministry is that this work belongs to God. We are vessels. He uses us. Not that we are very special, but he has just chosen us by his own wisdom to use us. And he has other people, again, that he would want to use them if we give them opportunity to be used of God. I am saying this because most of the challenges of pastors that culminates into mental health issues is because of working, and trying to do everything. I would advise pastors, myself included, that we should come into a place and acknowledge that this work is the work of God. And the work of God is a big work. That no individual man is able to handle this work of God. That we can only do what God has allowed us to do. We cannot overdo ourselves. It is called grace. That only which God has allowed you to do. Let us not to try doing that which God has not allowed us to do. Number two, we must always consider ourselves as human beings. As human beings, we have our limitations. There is an elasticity and there is an elastic limit. That if we stretch beyond elasticity, we are going to break. And when we break, we are going to have mental issues, some depressions, some even suicide. I've seen pastors committing suicide, and I've seen pastors making wrong decisions because of the mental health issue, the pressure that they are going through. That every time you receive any task that comes your way, weigh it and allow God to use you, but don't overstretch. Just do to where God allows you to do. Building a healthy, friendly relationship with other pastors who are not toxic, who are positive, who are not criticizing you, but they are building you. They wish you well. They become as a support system. Having senior clergy that have gone ahead of us, that we can always find time and pour out to them. Sometimes we call them and we pour out to them, and then they laugh because to us it's a big trouble, but to them it's a normal issue in line with our calling. Another thing that we can always do is looking once in a while for professionals in the areas of counseling or areas of caregiving, taking time for holiday, making sure that we are also building a healthy family back at home as a fallback, such that when we go home, we have a sanctuary, people that can help us out, and also avoiding things that can bring you into real trouble that will engage you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. Today we're just talking generally and maybe on issues of mental health. Even it's good to take a rest. It's good to take a rest. It's good also to find ways on how you handle things. You don't allow things to pile, because at the end of the day you will have a breakdown. So handle things a day at a time, or discard things so quickly.
And again, don't blame yourself when things don't work. When you pray for people and they die, don't blame yourself. When you are unable to visit them, when they expected you to visit them, don't blame yourself. You are employed by God. You are doing God's work.
And then it's good also not to be that superpower or a star who has to solve every call, every problem and all that. So set healthy boundaries and also learn to say no and even yes in a courteous way. You will have a good way, because people come and take a lot of energy from you. It is also take time to refresh yourself. Maybe I want to continue and ask about mentorship, pastors and mentorship. Some of the good practices we've seen. Because again, sometimes pastors are lonely. They don't have friends. They have followers, but they don't have friends. And if you want to know a lonely human being, they stand on the pulpit, preach to congregation of many thousands of people, but they walk alone at the end of the day. So I want you, Archdeacon and Reverend, just to speak about mentorship as a good practice, so that you can have somebody you can go to, somebody you can learn to, somebody you can, share, and somebody has your back. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, a good question about what a pastor can do, especially to mentor someone. And it depends to be mentored and also to mentor, because it works both ways. Yeah, if you are one pastor who is under some guidance from another person, then in that case maybe could be a bishop or any senior pastor, who is above you, and also trying to make you to be to grow, and also to do your work as it should, and also to learn how to negotiate some of the challenges that come by. And and again, it depends on almost different congregations, different churches, different denominations, and sometimes is that this work of a pastor has got some hazards, and in having hazards is that sometimes also some kind of rivalry. So for me is that how we need to inculcate that practice of mentoring others and helping others to grow, so that they can help you when you are serving and when you are ministering, is that one needs to go out of way and identify, of course, beginning from prayer and asking God, who is it that you would want us to minister with, and also identifying some of the talents from within the congregations or without, and actually kind of poaching, kind of straight going to that particular person, and also helping them to grow with you as you do it, like that kind of an apprenticeship. As you do, also they do. If it is prayer, if it is intercessory prayer, whatever, if it is in pastoral work, if it is in administrative and organizing the meetings. So when you bring them on board, especially when you are doing the work, that is the time one is to build also some of the ministry aspects and ministry talents that God is calling them into, and also avoiding looking at almost every person as a co-worker, and not a rival. Like sometimes also we as pastors is that we feel like we are being outshined by another person when they preach, and it is like the people are saying wow to that particular person. Then somehow that human nature within us that is fallen is telling us, hey, it is like you are being outstaged. So that you feel like there is a kind of quote unquote an enemy, a rival who is rivaling you. So for me is that a strong pastor is one who identifies others and mentor them, so that they are able to grow with them, because all of us, we found ourselves in this particular congregation, this particular church, and God is calling us to use our talents in that particular way to edify and also to build the church of Christ. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on mentorship?
Yeah.
Both sides.
I think most of us found ourselves in this journey. And we unlike other careers that people prepare from when they are young up to where they are, they prepare into it. Everything that they do directs them there, the courses that they choose in school. But most clergy, and they normally find themselves in the journey, just like the way Paul was in his way to Damascus, and he was he was cornered in the journey and began another journey with Christ. So because we find ourselves in the journey, sometimes we don't know what to do with the journey. We keep on moving on and moving on. But God will always direct you to somebody, just in the same way he directed Paul. He will direct you to somebody that can walk with you in this life. I believe that a mentor is someone that walks with you in this life. It's like a coach, but a pastoral coach. A coach that pushes you and understands you, builds you and helps you. It calls for humility in our generation to submit to somebody and allow them to be a mentor. Actually, a mentor is like, who are you looking up to? Who are you following? And who is teaching you?
Who are you accountable to?
And who are you accountable to? I like what Paul says. We have many teachers but few fathers. Now, as I keep on growing, there are some point in my ministry life I thought it's not a necessity I would continue without them. But as I keep on growing in ministry, the more I grow, the more I know that I need a mentor. The more I grow, the more I know that I need a deliberate mentor. Not accidental, not general, but somebody that I can always run to. I can allow them to speak to my life, and I become accountable to them, and they can mold me. So it is actually important because they help you, they shape you, they correct you, they rebuke you, they encourage you, they listen to you. When you cry, they are there. It looks like they understand almost everything that you are going through, and they are like parents to you. They're able to tell you that whatever you are doing is not strange. Those pastors that are having mentors, they are never beaten down by sin. Even when they fall down in sin, they will always rise up again. Those pastors that have mentors, they never burn out. They never go to a level of depression. Their marriages, their families never break, because there's always somebody that we can run to. It is important.
Thank you. It is important to have mentorship. We continue. Today we're just having some good time with you guys. Good practices, good principles we can apply in finances. As pastors, I know finance is a challenge. And balancing money, your money and church's money, your and the project's money. Yeah, things like this. I know each church has its different system, but there's this general principles, so practices a pastor can apply when it comes to finances and his call. Yes, Deacon.
Yes. Talk about money, and it is like what the Bible says. Money, the love of money, actually is a root. That is what the Bible really say. But then it can still be the love of money, and that correct love of money and the use of it, the right use of it, is actually can actually build the Church of Christ. You remember what the shrewd manager in Luke chapter 16, who is talking about managing the resources, wise way, using money to make God their friend. And for me is that money in church, if there is a very difficult place where we can manage money, is in church. Because for one is that we do get sources of funds in church from unreliable places. We may not really count that you will be giving tithe, or it's not automatic. Even if the people seated within the congregation are rich, it's not automatic that they are going to give. But still, is that when we have got that money, the first thing that we need to do is that we must, for me, correct the impression that when people have given, they have not given to an individual. They have given unto God. And so they are using money to serve God. And so that is the one place we need to begin. Secondly is that we need to budget. We need to budget, because in the first thing is that if you are receiving money, it is what for? That is the question. What for? Why are you receiving money in church? So if you can qualify why, the reason why we are looking for money, we are fundraising, or we are giving, then you can now tell and say, this one belongs to mission, and the mission, which particular part of mission, this one belongs to salaries, this one belongs to building a church, this one belongs to. So it is that budget, and the best practice in every church is to budget. And when you budget, be it annually or monthly or whatever the time frame of that, is that it will help you in guiding it. Because in budgeting, this is a good practice. It's a good practice, because it will be telling you what to do and how to get that money, but then also that accounting, and utilizing that money in a transparent way, so that we are able to account. What Paul is saying, we are actually called to account not only for the talent that we use, but also for everything that we use, be it money or property. That is, we are called to. It's a good practice to have a budget. It's a good practice to also account for that particular money.
Thank you. I would also contribute by saying every money that comes to the hand of a pastor is given to him by God. And God never gives money for nothing. He gives money for something. Sometimes you may not see that something now, but that something will come. Meaning that every money that comes our way, we need to ask God, and we need to think on how we are going to put it into a better use. As Pastor says, we need to budget, we need to plan, we need to save, we need to involve our partners in life, married partners and other people, so that we may be able to utilize this money well. Sometimes you get abundance in a season to prepare you for a season of dryness. And in the season of abundance, a pastor must learn that there is a season of dryness. Therefore, I need to make good use of my season of abundance, like Joseph did, to have better investment, to have better storage, so that in the season of dryness, I will not run dry, because God looks ahead of us. I would also say we should not be attached to that money. We should not be attached to that money. There's something I loved in Catholic. They say the vow of poverty, or the promise of poverty. Some people mistook it that I will be poor, but it means that I will not be attached to the wealth of this world. I will not serve it. It will serve me.
The mammon.
So the mammon, it will serve me. That whatever comes my way is either to be used for other people or myself. So it will not be a God for me. We should not be attached to the level that we keep on pursuing money. As I grow, I've also learned as a pastor, unnecessary debts can be a big trap. Unnecessary debts. Let debts be debts when they are necessary. When they are not a must, avoid them. Avoid them completely, totally, because they are a snare to you. Borrowing people money, asking them to give you money, you become their slaves. I've learned as a pastor that I must not live. I am not supposed to live on the congregation. I'm not supposed to put my lifestyle based on the congregation. That I need to live my life, to plan my life with whatever God gives me. He can use the congregation, he can use other methods. I should not make the congregation to carry my financial burden. I think those are some lessons that I'm learning about money. Whenever I get chance, I do investment. Whenever I get an opportunity, you do savings.
Yes, Reverend has mentioned something about a good practice that a person can actually be doing, and a bad practice that you need to shun away from. Yeah, and when you have one individual going in the name of God and asking for kind of alms and borrowing money from individual people, even in the congregation, unaomba, it is like it's not a good practice for a pastor to go out there, and it is like you are picking up this, you are asking this. It is not a good practice. I mean, live within your means. That is one. Two is that also there should be a way in which we collect this money. We raise towards that particular kitty of the church. And so for me is that let us leave it with individual people to give. When we motivate people and in the right way, don't manipulate people to give. Let us motivate people to give, that they are giving towards a worthy cause. And of course, you can get one person saying, okay, you've prayed for my child, and so just have this. That is no problem. But then if we continue, like, for one, if there was one person who is almost serving money, so you are tailoring your services and ministry into now going, and it is like you want to be receiving, begging, what? that again takes a different dimension, which can be manipulative, and also it is subject for abuse. And for me is that we need to really style up in that particular area and say, I think I may not go that direction. Just live according to your means, but then also don't be manipulative, and as well don't live within beyond your means.
And
Yes.
we say God's will, God's bill.
God's, yes.
And if we live in the will of God, He will provide.
Bill.
You follow the Bible. He provided for Jesus. He provided for Elijah. When Elijah went to the Zarephath,
Yes.
God provided for him there. He provided for Peter and the rest. So if we will struggle to live within the will of God, He's going to provide. The provision of God is found within the will of God. It cannot be found outside the will of God. And the will of God is found in the way of God. Every time we live the way of God as pastors, we begin to struggle for our provision. But when we go back to the way of God, the Lord shall provide. Actually, Abraham said, at the mountain of the Lord, it shall be provided. We shall become like Ruth. When Ruth went into the way of God and the will of God, Boaz left some things for her. So I think one principle for money for pastors and for the church leaders is living within the way of God in the will of God.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. You still have something to say?
No, it's correct.
Interesting. We take a short. We will be right back.
Our focus this week is on discipleship and baptism. It is very important as a Christian, once you've received Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, to be baptized in much waters. Jesus said, "Go ye therefore into all nations and make disciples of men, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." And He says, "And teaching them all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you to the very end of the age." It is very important to be a disciple of Christ and to be baptized into Christ, so that you are really of Christ and for Christ. The Lord bless you as you choose to be baptized and to join the class that's ongoing on baptism and discipleship. Looking forward to seeing you in the session on baptism and discipleship.
We have two services. The first service in the morning begins from 9 to 10:45. We also have the second service, which begins from 11 to 12:45. Feel free to join us for any of the services, and if for any reason you're not able to come to church, you can also follow us online. But we encourage you to make sure that you come to church. But sometimes, for some reason, you're not able to get to church, you can follow our services online.
Well, have you watched any of our church programs? Are you aware of the programs that we have in church? Are you aware of Conversations with Rev Allan? What about the soul-to-soul insights? What about the Psalms? What about the family prayer? What about the mental health snippets? I mean, you can always support us as a church by trying to watch at least one of the programs. I can assure you, each program carries with it a message. Please try and subscribe. Once you're a member of Jesus Center, it's good to support your church.
We encourage you to join us on our online platforms. Get us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Jesus Center Ministry. We also have Pastor Allan Kiombe page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Allan_Kiombe. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jesus Center Ministry. You can also get us on WhatsApp. Talk to us on phone. Text us and just get to interact with us.
Welcome to Jesus Center Ministry, and this is the home of God.
Okay, we continue. I know pastors offer counseling, they offer pastoral care. What are some healthy practices you can put to yourself and to the person or people you're offering the pastoral care, because where people have issues, people are hurting, people are in pain, people are vulnerable. People sometimes are down. They come to you, they look up to you. And sometimes we find some of these things lead pastors into trappings. So, what are some good practices in counseling? And generally, as a pastor, what would you advise yourself and the rest of your team? Yes, Archdeacon today, administrator.
Yes, as regards pastoral care and counseling, is that we do offer counseling. We do offer pastoral care. Like what Jesus is telling Peter, yeah? Do you love me? Yes. Feed my sheep. Yeah. And so there are so many areas in which we can be offering that care. Yeah, we offer care to people who are in distress. We offer care for people who are really harassed by this life, and in different ways, spiritually, physically, name it all. So we do offer pastoral care. What does Jesus do when people are in distress? And in that case is that when he mentioned, come unto me, all of you who are tired of carrying heavy loads, and I'll give you rest. So we as pastors are actually representative of Jesus and trying to bring relief to people. And so we do offer, much as we preach and we feed people when we preach, when we teach in different contexts. It can be within the church, or it can be in home fellowships, or wherever where we can be called, and different groups of people. In a particular church, a congregation, we can be having people of varied needs, and people of varied intellects, and as well people of varied backgrounds. So that one is one which we may not actually articulate and say this is how we are going to do it. But then depending on how a person has come and with a particular need, then that is a time now you will go out of your way and see, I need to offer some counseling. And so some people are in need of guidance. It may not get to counseling. And for me is that how I've done it is that like sometimes you need to counsel and depend on what is the thing that is happening here. What is the need of a particular person? If it is something to do which is private and confidential, and of course in offering counseling, all the issues are confidentials. They are actually it is confidential. One has to really, as a pastor, need to limit. You don't talk about what a person has shared with you. You don't talk about it either when you are preaching or when you are doing other things, or when you are visiting other people. You don't share. You don't breach that confidentiality. So for me is that when we are offering counseling, we must tailor so that it is professional. It has to be professional. Professional in this case means that some of the things that a person shares with you, you keep it to yourself and to the person, or unless they want to share in a particular testimony. That is one. Two is that keep that distance as well, depending on who. Sometimes is that you can be doing counseling, you as a man and woman, and if the pastor is a woman, then in that case counseling a man, you need maybe a third party, if that would be okay for the person, or is that you can refer some of the things. So there must be some discipline. Discipline in terms of how you conduct that counseling and the sessions thereof. You see, like one has to handle that, as I said, professionally, is that you must really be disciplined so that no one can say something is happening between you. So that are some of the few things that I may want to share as of now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Archdeacon Administrator. Yes, Reverend Allan.
Now, I would say
Pastoral
mostly
care,
on my side, or the pastoral side, as we do counseling, is know you must know your place in that session, in that program. Know your place. Your place. If someone comes to you for counseling, you need to know your place. And when people run for counseling, it's because there's something that maybe is eating them. Maybe someone's struggling with their wives, or struggling with their marriage, or struggling with their husbands, or struggling with their children. Know your place, that you cannot replace. You cannot replace that person. That you cannot replace. You cannot come into the position of the place.
Yes.
As in, if someone is looking for his wife, you cannot become the wife. Yes. You cannot offer what this person is lacking from the wife. You cannot offer what this person is crying for as a deficit from his child. When someone runs because of grief, sometimes grief, someone has lost their children, they say, when I look at you, you're just like my child. You cannot play the part of the child that is grieving about. The pastoral counseling that we are offering, the counseling that we are offering is, we guide somebody on how to go about what they have experienced, and giving them, helping them to get proper solutions on how to handle the situation. But we are not to become that solution. We are not to become that answer. A counselor is not an answer. A counselor is not a solution. A counselor is a guider, helping you to yourself to walk out of the situation. Because as we keep on growing, we discover that sometimes we get trapped into counseling. We get trapped as counselors. We begin to fulfill, or we begin to take the position of what is making this person to run to us or to cry to us. That's why in many counseling, you find emotional inclinations, you find sexual inclinations, you find financial inclination. There's somebody that was helping me in counseling somebody, and this somebody was struggling with finances. And then my counselor began to offer financial help to this person. So this person would come for counseling to get money. So you become a solution, and you're not supposed to be a solution. You are supposed to be a guide to enable this person to walk through out of this solution. That is number one for me, so that I may not be trapped into the counseling session. Number two is, we are counselors because God has given us that opportunity. And what we do it for God. And we must always be very focused not to come out of our way and to become partners together with the one that we are counseling. We are becoming partners in solution, partners in problem, partners in whatever this person is doing. There is always a very high chance as a pastor that you find yourself becoming an accomplice of fighting whatever is eating the other person's life. If the problem is marriage, it's like now you have joined the other person fighting the other person, or complaining about the other person. And that's why you would hear people telling you that woman's husband is very bad, that man's wife is very bad, because you've become an accomplice, a partner, instead of guiding this person on how to handle the problem. I think these ones I did not get from any college. These are skills that I've developed as I keep on growing.
Interesting. And it's good to set boundaries all along. Set time limit. You cannot cancel somebody forever.
You will get trapped in a relationship.
You set boundaries, and you're like, we are going to handle. And it is good to pick on the object, not the subject. Maybe if it is adultery, we are dealing with adultery, not the adulterer. If it is stealing, we are dealing with the habit, not the person. So I think it is good when people come to the office, you pick the object.
Yeah, if you pick the subject, you'll join this other person to call that person thief. Thief.
And another thing, it's good to put closure. Sometimes pastors don't put closure, and then the spark begins again. You go into cycles. It's good to put closure and say, hey, by the way, we prayed over this, and God told us this, and it
also
comes to an end.
Assess your ability. Assess your ability. If you see this one will also lead me into danger, refer, or just like judges. Judges normally excuse themselves from a case. They say, I have an interest here, or this thing can get me.
Another thing I've noticed, pastors don't put closures on issues.
Yeah,
So
but
you
yes.
stay like 2 years again, the issue pops up, and then memories are replayed. Then you begin living in cycles. It's good to put closure and say, "Hey, we finished this thing," and God is always on the move. I don't think God is stuck. God is always on the move. And maybe another thing on pastoral counseling and care, it's good to the way Pastor has said, to define who you are. I am so and so, and this is the offer I can. Sometimes they come with a headache, then you end up being a cook, you end up being a driver, you end up being all those things. It's good to define yourself. You find yourself mixed up in so many things, and I think those are some of the good practices. Pastors can help themselves maintain a healthy, you cannot run away from counseling, you cannot run away from pastoral care. It is good for you to define. There are things somebody needs to go to hospital. There are things somebody needs prayer. There are things somebody needs to take responsibility.
And also you need to know this is a counseling issue. This is not a counseling issue.
Yeah.
You may end up becoming a social worker. You may end up becoming a
Paralegal.
nanny. You can even become a nanny. You can even become
Paralegal.
something.
Yes, and that is why I was saying we must be disciplined, we must be professional, because sometimes
And
is
also
that
spiritual.
and
Yeah.
spiritual, of course, spiritual, and like for me is that sometimes is that we may have found pastors who found themselves doing the pastoral work, but then without particular training or without particular calling. And so you need to upscale your speed, upgrade, build capacity, so that you are able to really minister. If it is counseling, and go towards that particular area and then learn more about it. And so when you do it, you are doing it professionally. And so because there are so many things that come as that profession, and so you must identify the issue. You must as well be objective, not subjective. You must have a time frame of that particular thing. You must, as when you say bring it to a closure, you need to really finish that thing. So many of us is that we need to really almost all the time study and build capacity.
Thank you. Now we go to this other issue. I understand both of you are in marriage. You are not celibates. You are married. And
you
and
can
it
be
is
married and celibate.
you can be married, no.
Yep.
Paul says if you are not, you marry. You'll help me understand.
Topic for another day.
Marriage
Tell
and
us,
celibate.
yes.
Okay. So I know you're in marriages and there is ministry. And what are some of the good practices, principles a pastor or pastors can do to also save their ministry and their marriage? Because
There was last time there was something that he shared about that married life and my family. For example, my family is within that church. You see, it is within the church, and so when I am having time with my family, then it is the beginning point of ministering to people, and also is that it is a kind of we may not dissect so much as to this is my family and this is the church, but then it is almost not even one and the same, but then it is a tricky part how we play about it. So where you need also privacy, you need time for family and family issues which are private and personal, and as well is that as you minister to them, you are also ministering to the congregation. And so for me over time is that I've found, much as we are trained on how do you, and if you are a single person, you are almost having all the time, and where you are church, the church is your family. And maybe if you talk about family in that case as well, where you are the father and you are the mother, or you are the child in that family, you have little time maybe for family, and the family where they are your parents. And for me, when I got married, is that I found more responsibilities where I'm the father and I'm the parent, and so I'm the husband. And so there are times when you really need to have time for family and say, this is our family. This is issues to do with husband, and further. Period. And so let us have time for that. And at times you say now, let me leave to work for the bigger family. And so you really need to plan your time so that you are giving almost equal measure. And equal measure in this case is that whatever is demanded in the family, you are giving that equal measure. Whatever is demanded by church, you are giving it in equal measure, so that you have time for all and also to address all. That is what I may want to say.
Yes, Reverend.
I would also say that even though you cannot separate the church, that this is my family and this is my family church, but you minister your love to them in different levels. Just in the same manner, I love my mama and I love my wife, but I love them in different levels. And I love my daughter, but I love them in different levels. The expression of the love to my wife is not the same expression of my love to my mother and to my daughter. Now, having said this, being a pastor in a church and being a pastor in a city, my wife is not the wife of the church. She is my wife. I married her. She was not married by the church. The church cannot say our wife. Therefore, my marriage is my marriage. It's my responsibility as a pastor who is a husband to do my role, my duty as a husband to this woman. My responsibility that has been dictated by God's word over my wife. And that's why, as I was saying in the counseling, that if someone runs because of the husband, I cannot be their husband. They have their husband. I only guide them. Now, a healthy pastor in a healthy marriage must always do a good boundary and say, this is my wife. I am not the husband to other women. I am the husband to one wife. And that's how many pastors always introduce themselves. I am a husband to one wife. I'm not the husband to other women. I'm their pastor. But I'm the husband to this only one wife. The pastor needs to come to a place and know that as a husband, I need to provide for them. I need to protect. I need to promote. I need to preserve. I need to do all those things for my wife that is needed for a wife. And sometimes it's different from other persons. Now, I know my duty for my wife. I know my duty for other people. I know I need to provide. I know I need to protect. Having the knowledge that my work ministers to many people, I need to know what are the dangers that can penetrate into my marriage from the congregation, and I need to protect. Number one that I rarely do and I cannot do is to allow anybody that I minister to or come to me in the name of a pastor to discuss my wife with me. I cannot allow that. I cannot discuss my marriage with anybody, member of the church, anybody, unless I'm going out for counseling to somebody else who I consider as a pastor to me. I cannot allow that wall to be broken at any particular point. I also say and speak with my wife and help that we cannot use a position as a wife also to get out and do things that she's to do to me as a wife because she's not the wife of the church. Now, I would also say pastors should learn to cultivate a culture in their congregation that will respect their marriage. Actually, I say people occupy the space that you give them. If you give them a certain space in your marriage, they will occupy that space. I'm telling you, the congregation can come and carry your wife and take your wife back to their family. If you give them the space, they will become the husband. So draw the line, boundary, respect people, and they respect you. Put your marriage as private as possible. Actually, marriage is supposed to be private. Put it as private as possible. I see many pastors that have problem is pastors that have made their house to be the sanctuary. Members of the church are cooking in their house.
Vicary.
Members of the church are spreading their bed. Members of the church are washing their children. That is lack of boundary.
Yeah.
A pastor's house is like any other house. If you come to my house, you are a visitor, not a church member. You are a visitor, like the way I come to your house. But I can come to your house on pastoral level if you have a need of prayer, if you have a need of your family that needs me as a pastor. But when I just pass by and I say I'm entering into this house, I am a visitor there, and I must occupy the place of a visitor. So I think that's what I'm trying to do.
Interesting.
You don't allow your wife to be a community wife, and you don't become a community husband. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's a funny place where we can discuss several things here. And for me is that of late there is a new trend. There is a new trend where if the husband or if this one man is called to be the pastor and the minister of that particular church, it is somehow like ministers with the wife. Yeah? Or if this woman
By default.
Yeah, if this woman is called to be the pastor, then the husband as well is somehow becoming. And so of late is that new trend of having pastors, and you have like baba, mama. Yeah, again it really spoils yeah. It really spoils our way in which we relate as pastor and congregants. Yeah? So when they call you mama, baba, they follow you back home again until you may not even have that time. You come to my vicarage, and the vicarage, it is like an extension of a church. My children cannot have their free time to watch their own movies.
Because
other
children have come.
Yes, other children, it is like they are in church. They are in Sunday school. They are in Sunday school. Come on. Is that we need to draw boundaries, and we need also to style up, and maybe for us, and especially the Pentecostal churches, the Pentecostal churches, we really need to really define who is this, who is called Papa, Mama, and then what are their roles in church, and what are their roles back at home. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's been interesting.
You decided that before we end, you must release an arrow.
It is interesting.
It's an area to discuss.
Actually, it's an area to discuss. And it's interesting. And church is evolving. And we are meeting challenges as we go ahead.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you very much, Reverend Allan. Thank you very much, Vika. And I just leave this quote in Matthew. Jesus said, I'm building my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail. God bless you for the good work you do. I've been your moderator, Vivian Kibe. Happy New October. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.